2017 to order at 7:05 p.m. You want to roll call, please?
Jeff Sheldon, are you here?
Yes.
Ron Savasio. Here. Mike Carpenter.
Here.
Sergio Spaciano.
Here.
Also present is Helen Hardy, Secretary. Joe Carriger, are you here?
Yes.
Richard Sparks from the Planning Board is excused. Also present our staff, Joanna Kelly, attorney or solicitor, and Cheryl Maynard, our planner, and also the people whose names appear on the sign-in sheet on the table here. Okay.
Take a motion for approval of minutes for November 15th, 2017. Motion approved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. All right, discussion? No? Discussion on this?
Nope, I'm going to talk to Cheryl about my observations and
Okay.
duly noted.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 0. Okay, moving on, we have a decision from our previous major land development for the, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was past that one. That's because it's not in the file. I looked through the file. Okay, do you have any correspondence this evening? Cheryl, anything?
Well, we do have correspondence, so I think we give Mr. Bouvier. Right, it's part of, it'll be part of the AOG. Okay.
Do we have any board members' reports? Land trust, anything, Mike?
I had some notes out of my truck, and I was gonna read, but
Too late.
too late.
We can save it for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll bring everybody up to speed at the next meeting.
All right, thank you, Mike. It's okay. Obviously, conservation hasn't had any meetings, I don't think. So, no reports tonight. All right. Back to F. Major land development. Approval of final decision, combined preliminary and final approval of applicant Davison Pike Solar LLC, owner Northwest Community Healthcare, to construct a 950 kilowatt DC, 720 kilowatt AC ground mounted solar installation encompassing approximately 2.5 acres, separated into 2 arrays and related access drives and gates, vegetative buffer, soil erosion and sedimentation control measures, stormwater drainage, best management practices, and electric service extension structures located on Danielson Pike by both 191 through 195, and at the intersection of the Shippey Schoolhouse Road on 7.088 acres, being Plat 10, Lot 20, in the general business mixed-use GBM district. Okay. Is there any discussion on the decision? Anybody have a chance to read it? Okay. Take a motion to accept the decision as it's written.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. The next item on the agenda is a zoning advisory opinion for a special use permit and a commercial site plan review. Request for a special use permit to construct an office/residence in general business mixed-use district from owner applicant Michael and Judy Paolucci for property located at 0 Davison Pike in Plat 14, Lot 3A on approximately 2 acres. An advisory opinion and recommendation from the planning board is requested by the zoning board. And the commercial site plan review is required by the planning board in accordance with Article 9, Plan Review, Section 8 of the zoning ordinance. Okay. do you want to speak on this before we start discussion? Or you just want us to ask you questions?
Yeah, why don't we leave it open? I mean, I've been in front of the board before, and it was a favorable decision, because also the town council also made a favorable decision, and trying to keep in contact with trying to stay in sync with the town of Gloucester and the townwide plan, comprehensive plan. The building is now, if you have the sketch of it, it is going to look like a house.
Thank you.
Let me start. In your placement of the office, I honestly don't know Rhode Island rules, but in Massachusetts, my builder's license would say that you need a door to the outside of the office.
That can be easily changed.
I'm sorry?
That can be easily changed.
Yeah, I'm just,
But we're not in Massachusetts, and
uh,
I've been reminded of that several times.
okay, but I'm sure the building inspector, when he looks at this, you've stated office, you haven't told employees, and he's gonna want an egress out of the office, so I'm trying to help you out.
Oh, yeah,
Or you
no,
know,
it is-
continue having this conversation.
It would, yeah,
Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, well, he's got a door from the garage, but that's not the office. It's the garage is down here. What are your intentions with two empty spaces between the garage and the office?
the garage in the empty space.
Yeah, you've got,
This is a plot on drafting, this is no longer. This is,
all right, so
so
you're,
this is all one space.
so,
The garage is all one space with a staircase leading up to the second level.
okay, okay. Thank you. So we've got 12, 15, 18, okay. So you're gonna store, obviously, you're gonna store equipment for your business in there.
Yes.
And I'm reminded what Serge said at the end of the last meeting, there was no guarantee that we did change this to general business mixed use, but there was
That's
no
correct.
guarantee that we were gonna move forward with a house.
Right,
Okay,
that's-
so
what's-
I don't have the exact words, but they are in our packet. If you'd like, I'll read them to you.
right. And
Okay.
so, on recommendation from town solicitor, council president, correct me if I'm wrong, I was led down the path that I would be able to, or my best path to proceed with this structure is to put an office in there as well, which is a permitted use in GBN.
So, I'd like to ask the solicitor, is that the discussion you had?
I think that there was a discussion between Cheryl and I, but I didn't make any recommendations. However, there was an application submitted prior to this one that I said absolutely did not fit within the zoning ordinance, and Mr. Palucci obviously is doing this on his own, and the suggestion was that this would be the only, the most feasible to present to the board. However, I am in no way opining that the board must approve this, should approve this, or anything of the sort.
Follow up on Ron's point, I think it's a very good point, that the office is in the GPM. Now, this is gonna be a residence. Now, this office is in GPM, as a mixed use. Now, it's not only, it's something that you can lease, or whoever owns the property after it's built can lease this out to somebody else to have an office in there if somebody wanted to lease it. So there should be access to the office from the exterior of the building.
There is,
Through the garage door.
that's correct, because the office or the business is part of the garage.
So
That's
if-
where the van would be parked at night.
So the entire lower level is gonna be for the office, the garage.
Correct, yes, because there is in most of the projects I've done where we have a mixture of residential and business combined, and I won't say what city or town I do a lot of work in, you have to provide parking for the tenant as well. So, half of the garage would be parking for the tenant, which would be myself and my wife, and the other part of the garage would be parking for my van, which that is my company, would be Ware Emerald Services, electrical service and consulting, and also calculation company.
I guess my concern is that, I mean, we don't know the future of this building as far as if they're gonna retain
Well,
ownership.
as we say in the trade, it's a toes-up house.
Right. So, I'd like to make sure that, it's a separate portion of the business, side of it, so it's gonna be, separated, so that this is gonna be used for the business side and the upstairs is residential, and it's not gonna, turn it, where it's used as part of the residence.
No, it won't.
The office definitely should be separated. I mean, you can, use a smaller section of it, but the garage is, both sides are open. There's no wall between the two sides.
That's correct.
So
It's not required.
Excuse me?
It's not required.
I just,
In the International Building Code, it's not required.
no, I was thinking as part of making that an office, that, there should be some separation from the residential there. If that's.
There is, the lower level is the office. If you look at the footprint, as you enter from the side of the garage, there's a door entrance there, and you would walk through the business side of the garage, or where the van would be parked at night, and then there's a stairway going up to the residence, and then there is a door entering the office, and there's your separation.
There are some, actually, this model for business residential or business offices are being built a little differently down on 102 and on Route 6 in Situate, where people have their business and their offices upstairs. A lot of this is going to, I think a lot has to be done with this if it's approved in conjunction with the building inspector, one, because of ventilation from the garages and the residents, especially if both things were going to be rented out. So you have diesel trucks downstairs in the morning starting up, and you got tenants upstairs. So I'm not telling your business, but I think this is going to get more complicated than this presentation. I think the building inspector needs to, did you want to help me with something, Mike?
No, I was just thinking out loud.
I'm sorry?
Good, Mark.
Thank you. No, I mean, he raised his hand. I think the board needs to think about those things. I'm certainly not opposed to it.
Well, first off, I don't own diesel trucks. And it would be foolish to start up a diesel truck in a closed garage. And if that was the case, a lot of firemen would be dropping right now, okay? They don't start up the diesel trucks. I mean, let's use a little common sense here. Let's not make it more complicated than it really is. You have to meet the International Building Code. International Building Code states this, all right? You have to put a fire door, number one, to create separation. You need a 1-hour fire rated door. You also need 5/8 sheet rock, 2 layers, to create that 1-hour fire separation.
Anyhow.
All right, in any house between, and also in businesses. I happen to be working on a fairly large project right now, and that's exactly what we're doing between residents and the business side of it. We're putting up fire-rated walls as per fire codes. So all fire codes would be adhered to. Also, I could speak to the NFPA 70 because I do a lot of fire alarm installation and understand exactly what fire marshals would be required to do. And upon submitting my plans to the building inspector, there would also be a state fire review on my plans because Foster does not have a fire marshal to review plans, number one. The second thing is, everything from Foster is turned over to the state of Rhode Island, to the fire marshal's office on Jefferson Boulevard.
Where's your mechanical, where's your mechanical part gonna go?
The mechanical part of it, we have 2 options. We can put a attic unit in the second floor, on the second level, to heat the second floor unit, and we would also put a mechanical unit, a forced hot air system in the basement lower level. That's something that can be penciled in as we move forward. Also, there will be 2 gang meter sockets to separate both the electrical service for both units, for the office and the living space.
Yes.
This is the plan you submitted already and got passed once. Correct?
Yes.
You
Sent to where?
got approved by who?
The building inspector.
Correct. I have a copy of that permit if you'd like to see it.
Foster.
That was a house.
That was a house.
This is different. This is an office with a resident. No, I mean, that's the big thing is, it's GBM, so these are,
It's permitted.
it is permitted, but it
There's a whole
has to
list.
be used, it could be used as a separate from you. You're talking like it's your garage and your van, but it's the business use, you know, it's 2 separate uses, so it has to be
Of course there is.
separate. But I think there is a concern.
There are about 60 to 70% of the homes in Foster run a business out of their house in a residential area, but nothing seems to be done about it. I mean, I'm not putting
Well,
up
that's
some,
different, yeah.
have you driven up Route 6 lately? I'm not putting up some little shanty. I mean, there are a lot of issues we can discuss about Route 6 and the rezoning of Route 6, how it's failed miserably, and you look at some of the buildings that have been built there. I'm trying to put up an attractive-looking building that looks like a home to conform to the master plan here in Foster.
And we're not against it, I'm totally not against it, I think it's probably the best fit to have something that looks like a house in that area with the residential area, with the business. I'm just making sure that we're covering everything, that if there's a business in there, I think the egress is just a little bit of a concern from the office, maybe there should be a separate exit directly, so you don't have to go through the garage. But
A home office is not what this building is technically supposed to be. A home office, in the zoning regulations, requires the lot to be, to conform to the AR size. So that is not, he cannot ask for that because he does not have that lot size. He can ask for an office build. So what the request is, that he can build an office building, and he is requesting a special use permit, in addition to build an accessory use apartment above. So that is what you are opining on. So it couldn't necessarily, he can't be renting this accessory apartment to somebody else. If it's an accessory use to his business, it is for him, his living quarters.
so
That's
whoever
how-
purchases it would purchase the
It-
property.
that's
use it,
how it
or
should be.
Lease it out
Yes.
as a complete.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure, I'm just trying to, I'm a little unclear, this is something new. You know, we haven't done this before, so I just was trying to make sure we cover everything.
And I think his design is trying to be in accordance with the zones that are around him.
Right.
So making it look a little bit more like a home was sort of
Well,
his,
yeah,
that's, I'm just getting to the outside design.
no, and it helps with the butters.
Right.
concerns and stuff, you know, residents, which is the proper fit for that area, but because of the way the zoning went, you know, kind of between a rock and a hard place at this time.
Joe,
Uh,
I'm sorry. No,
Did you
sorry.
have something, sir, Neil?
I just, I'm looking at the rendering, and I'm looking at the plans, and this doesn't look like an accessory use residence on an office building. It looks like a house with a home office, which is not permitted. So, and I agree with you, I'm not necessarily against the idea, but this doesn't look like a commercial development. It looks like a residential development. Maybe the issue is I think some of what Joe raised about the egress with the office. It just looks like a house with a home office. Which
That's
is,
the idea.
but
Do you want it to look like Foster Feeding Grain?
that requires 5 acres.
Do you want it to look like,
Doesn't matter what I want.
I mean, you want to look like the tattoo shop?
It
We're
doesn't matter.
here,
It doesn't
I
we
matter.
am-
approved
I'm-
your request, and we're here to help you, okay?
We just
So
have to
this is
make
not an
sure-
argument, you're not working against us, and we're not working
It
against
just gotta
understand that,
be
all right?
consistent with the ordinances and we gotta make
That's
sure
what we're
that
trying to
it is,
do.
because if we do something, approve something that doesn't fit our ordinances, and we're not doing our job. And it's nothing personal, it's nothing to do with, you know, we're just making sure that this fits what is posted.
Joe, man, someplace out there, who has that picture? Thank you. The board all has this picture, I had it taken in Cumberland, I took it in Cumberland, and later on, we're gonna have a discussion about berms. And this is, we have the planner gave us a whole packet on berms, but here's a picture of a berm, and my suggestion, that's fine, we can give it to Mike, so he has an idea what I'm talking about. I think the solar farms got ahead of us, but every commercial entity from here moving forward should have a screened berm separating, dressing up Route 6, okay? So I didn't want it to be a surprise to you that, this may come as a condition of what you're asking for. And if you look at that, that's 114, and right behind there that you can't see, you all have one, if you want to look.
Yes, thank you.
Is a factory, and you can't see the factory. And the reason I took that picture, the car, you can see the car is about probably 4.5 feet, the berm is probably 6 feet. They put pines on it. I think in Foster would be better to do junipers and hollies. And so you're not building 60-foot pines on a thing that are gonna fall over. And there is a point where Foster needs to start to dress up Route 6, and this board has to address that. We've gotta quit making this town look like, who knows what. We're never gonna have commercial development, we're never gonna have tax relief if what Michael was alluded to, what we have. So I have no problem what you're presenting. I was for what you wanted to change, but I want you to know that my intention, whether anybody else wants to vote for me, is to start to dress up Route 6, and you're gonna probably be the first victim of that.
Well, if you drive up Route 6 to Payne Road, I have nothing but 100 feet of trees in front of the building.
But,
from Route
but you're
6.
to Route 6, you're asking for general business mixed use.
It won't be noticeable. It won't be noticeable in the wintertime when you drive by at 60 miles an hour. It won't be noticeable in the springtime when the trees are full.
Okay, I've informed you, I've showed you.
Yeah, I
Thank
agree.
you.
I agree.
So Sergio, I know you have concern with the layout. It's just wondering, how do you think it would be the best way to address that as far as, you know, I was thinking it was gonna be something like the building was gonna be split, you know, where the office would be upstairs or something, you know, separate entrance.
I mean, that's kind of what I would like to see. I mean, I would like to see something that, you know, there's nothing to, just, I know it's not your plan, but there's nothing, none of us can predict the future, and there's nothing, once this is approved, there's nothing that stops him from just selling this as a single-family residence with an office,
Right.
which is absolutely not permitted in the law. So that's really what's being built here. So I think, I'm not opposed to the idea, but I think, I don't know that these plans conform to the law. That's what.
Well, that's what my same thought, I thought, you know, I was thinking that it was gonna be, you know, instead of scary, you know, there'd be a separate entrance to the upper level. There'd be an office and a section of the
There is a
house,
separate
you know,
entrance.
which you would, you know, be able to use for yourself or for, you know, somebody else. You know, if somebody wanted to put an office in there and, you know, conduct business there, you know, so. I mean, the way this is, like Sergio said, it doesn't seem like, you know, it seems like it's just a house with an office in the basement, in the garage. The idea is there, but I don't know
Well, if you
if
look
this
at,
particular plan is gonna work.
okay, if you look at the sketch, we have an entrance here for the lower level, going into the garage, going into the business. All right, it's the type of business where people don't come to the office. All right, I go there, number one. That's the type, an electrical business, I go to where the issues are. All right, I can't do a knob and tube wiring inspection for my house. You know, it'd be nice if I could, I enjoy staying home. And we have the separate entrance for the living space upstairs. All right, so I kind of do meet that requirement, having two separate entrances.
That's an
Two
entrance to the
separate
garage.
meetings.
That's an entrance to the garage, it's not an entrance to the business.
That's why I've asked for that second door for an egress, but
Jeff, did you?
Yeah, I've been building a long time. The only thing he really needs is the way to secure the stairway, if it's a tenant thing. Okay, everything else, the rules for a garage with what he did, double 5/8 fire code sheetrock, the separate door. You're an electrician, you probably have to put an exit sign up if you, okay. Other than that,
Exercise
this
emergency
conforms,
lights.
this is no change. The only documentation we've had about anybody against this is the neighbor who said he didn't want to look at a business, he wanted to look at a house. It seems to me he's made that guy happy, or he should have with this. This looks like a house. So I'm not quite getting, I'm up on current building codes. He's in compliance. But the house that you guys are talking about has the same requirements as the business you're requiring. He just needs a door to secure the stairway, and it's got to be fire rated, as well as the one going into the office.
Denise, did you want to?
I just wanted to make one statement. Mr. Paolucci had referred to the town council president, making a statement about advising him to put a office in this building. I don't recall having made that statement, so I just wanted to make that clear for your minutes, that I don't recall that conversation.
so, Serge, say again, no, the attorney. The question, no, Serge is not an attorney. Serge is not an attorney. He may be an attorney, but,
Not tonight.
is it illegal to build a house in general business mixed use, or can we allow it? I'm sorry? Sure.
So, a single-family residence is allowed in a GDM by a special use permit. However, you are required to have the 4.59 acres. The lot that we have here is not a substandard lot of record for purposes of a single-family home. It is a substandard lot of record for purposes of HC. And in the HC zone, highway commercial, single-family homes were prohibited. So at no point in time could this lot previously have a single-family home. So this lot also is not allowed to have a home office, which is why the plans that were envisioned to be presented were an office with a request to have an accessory use of a small
Okay,
living
all
quarters.
right. That's what we're
Yes.
being asked to do.
Yes.
And I just want to make one statement to the board. I don't know how many of you have ever looked at the map of Route 6. When we changed, this board changed, zoning to large areas of general business mixed use and the rest of it to AR, we're going to face a lot of these problems coming down in the future, because there were a lot of lots that were business and are now AR, and you can't build a house on it. Gordon, is that right?
No, that's not correct.
Down between where Mike Carpenter lives, I've looked at that map, and.
That's not GBM on that end, it's only from 94 up.
But it used to be.
No, it was not. There were selected positions on that part. From 6 to 94, there are very few lots that went to AR that are below the 4.75
All
acre
right,
limit.
we'll see. I honestly think, though, I'm not against anything here, I honestly think we really need to look at that map and see
I have.
how many things this affects.
Well, our goal tonight is to make sure that this special use meets the criteria set forth in the sections of the building ordinance, such as special uses. So we gotta make sure that this is consistent with our ordinances, that's our main objective here. It's not the, whether we like it or if it's safe or if it meets fire codes.
Right.
But it has to be consistent with our ordinances, and that's where we are. And, this type of office in an AR zone is totally acceptable. But in GBM, it needs to be an accessory, the home needs to be an accessory use to the office, not vice versa. What you're presenting is like, basically, what Sergio said, it's just like an office, home office. But that's not what's allowed in GBM. It's got to be a mixed use. So they have to be some separation there.
There is.
Read the ordinance.
The lower level is the business. The upper level is the living space. There's separation. There's a fire rated door that will be installed between the basement door and the upper unit. Because they have to provide for residential parking as well. And that's exactly what I've done in this plan. Or my architect has done in this plan. And if there's any changes that need to be made on the plan, I'm sure our building inspector would guide me in that direction of what he would want to see.
Well, we have to
Somebody
make
set
sure
up
this
a
is
parking
gonna
lot.
go back to the zoning board for approval of special use. We have to make sure that the site plan is approved previous to make a recommendation on the special use. Based on the site plan, we have to make sure that the building is consistent with our ordinance before we make a recommendation on the special use. So I just want to make sure it's consistent with GPM. I guess
Did the
planner
building inspector
possibly,
look at these
I know
plans?
you've done a lot of research on this
Similar.
as it's been going on. Excuse me.
Yep,
Well, he asked me a question.
yeah, that's fine.
Please don't be asking questions.
Okay.
Just out of the blue. I mean, it's been pretty loose, but I just want to get this done, and make sure we do it properly. But you've been doing a lot of research, obviously. We've been, trying to make this work for everybody involved and make sure that the town is covered and that you're allowed to use your property. Now, as far as this structure, does this seem consistent to our ordinances, to you, with this work as a mixed use, with this fit into the general business mixed use? The way it's been presented this evening.
I think Mr. Paolucci's made a really good faith effort to try and combine the two. I think that trying to create a structure that is least impacting in that particular area was one of the goals. So to combine a commercial use with some type of a residence, because that was the goal to make it look like a residence. I think that he's come a long way in trying to present that to you. Now, as far as, you know, the ratio, I mean, obviously that's up for discussion. I appreciate what Sergio's saying as far as the amount of office space or looking like an office. But when you weigh that against the fact that the abutter is concerned about how the structure looks, I think that this type of a rendering, this type of a facade is a little bit more amenable in the particular. It conforms as far as the requirements for the site plan, its performance standards. I did do a review of the performance standards. Looked at landscape, visual relationships of the buildings, the vehicular access, the parking, the stormwater runoff, utilities. I don't think there's going to be any advertising features, special features of the development, any external lighting, services, water pollution, air pollution, water, sewer, unique areas, capacity, and water bodies. All of those were reviewed, and his plans were fine for all of those. Very little impact on any of the performance standards. It meets all the dimensional requirements. The landscaping, as far as the buffer, there's a good 100 feet from Danielson Pike to the residence. There is a foundation that's been dug, and I think we're all aware of that. That foundation is, at this point, not in conformance, but the plan that he submitted is in conformance, so that is something that I think will have to be addressed, and would be a condition.
So if he built this by this plan, now the house is upstairs, the office is downstairs. So the business is in the basement, basically. The bottom would be all considered commercial, but he's saying that he uses half the garage for the tenants upstairs. You know, I just,
This doesn't look like upstairs, this looks like ground level to me. That there's a ground level entrance.
well,
Yeah, there's a ground level entrance in that, because of the
Because
topography.
of the hill
of
top.
Yeah, so
the
it
lot.
really is a single family on your ground level. And
so the
your
garage isn't
office
gonna be,
is- Your office is more of a basement level.
right, so the garage isn't gonna be facing Payne Road. Garage doors will be facing Payne
No, they'll
Road,
be facing
Route 6,
down Payne Road, away from, north.
towards the north, I bet.
Should we be focusing on what we're gonna ask zoning to do, or we're gonna actually recommend to zone?
Well, zoning is gonna,
Zoning wants our recommendation. right?
for the special use permit, but we have to
Well,
do
we-
site plan review first. And
Well,
once that's
yeah.
done, then we can recommend the special use based on site.
So everybody needs, I think what everybody needs to be clear on is what the special use permit will be. And we really need to define that, because obviously you meet all the criteria.
Accessory use.
Accessory.
Yeah, what are we're doing an accessory use, right? Sorry.
It would just make, I think, sense, because of it's not a standard, we're not on a standard adventure here. And we don't want to set, we don't need to set it. We've had cooperative effort between the board and the council to try to address concerns Mike has about the property. Now, to move forward, he's going to need a special use permit. And we've already defined all the terms and conditions that he has to meet, and it appears he's done it, he's tried to meet all those terms and conditions. Somehow we have to construct that in a clear understanding, black and white. This is what we've done so far. We've got an applicant, we asked for a zoning change, outside the window that we had open at the GBM. And it's today's needs that are being recognized, and that's been recognized by the board, recognized by the council. To keep this thing moving forward, the next step would be the zoning board approving a special use permit, but I think they need to know exactly what we've specified, all the conditions that we specified. We need to identify very clearly, because what's going to be, I think, as Ron stated, if the case comes up again, I think it would behoove us all to be on the same page and a clear understanding and agreement of how we arrive at this decision. And anybody else that would request that same consideration would have to meet all that same criteria. Almost like an addendum to the original offering of changing your zoning status before the ordinance was enacted. We had language in the EDM zoning that allowed everybody to retain a AR commercial of their choice, meeting all conditions. We have clearly defined GBM and AR in our zoning since 1967. This is an exception, and that's why we have special use permits. But we can't violate, as Joe keeps referring back to, we can't violate our own ordinances to allow a special use permit. We have to have terms and conditions met, and it has to be very specific and understood for a very good reason, by virtue of the fact that it is a special use permit. It's whether what you're trying to do is not allowed. You don't have an AR, you don't have a commercial. It's got to be one or the other. And by our own law. So to make an exception, we have to clearly define it. I guess I'm just repeating myself here a little bit, but I'm trying to reinforce what Joe was saying, that we can't step outside our written and ordinances to create something. We have to say this is different because of these conditions, which you've all met, and we've had an open meeting. We have understanding and agreement among all the folks who are presenting this and the abutters. That's an appropriate course of action. If we just focus on that, that would be helping the zoning board, and that would be helping you and anyone else who has to go through that process of deciding what do I do with my property, because I'm no longer it's no longer viable for commercial development as in GBM or for AR. Who would you sell it to? You have to ask yourself that question. It's almost like having a landlocked piece of property. You either sell it to your abutter or you sit on it, because you don't have any frontage. We can't give you frontage, and we can't give you an extra 3 acres. You can give your 2 acres, like it'd be great if somebody wanted to buy your property and pay all that money for it, and go build a house where you want, wherever you want it. But you tried to sell it once and it didn't work, so you're probably not interested in doing it.
I think we're past that point.
So, it's not like everybody wants your property. You've got 2 acres in the middle of nowhere, without a whole lot of options.
I think he's making a worthy piece of property out of this, so that's not, can I suggest?
Can you hang on just a minute?
Okay.
Ellen, go ahead, her hand.
No, fine.
She hasn't spoken yet.
No.
I just wanted to ask, it seems to me that Mike, Joanna, and Sergio are all saying that nobody has a problem with what you're trying to do, but it seems to me that and I maybe Ron also are saying that it looks more like a residence. It seems to be more like the primary use is the residence. Is that correct? And that there needs to be something done to the structure that makes it that makes it clear that the primary use is the office and that the secondary use is the residence. And
And I-
that's what I'm hearing.
I would also say the scale of the residence does not indicate that it is a secondary use. You have a 3-bedroom residence with, a one-room office. So clearly, one is the subordinate and it's not the
The
residence.
primary.
Yeah.
Did you want to?
Well, Jeff's gonna say, let Jeff.
Go ahead, Jeff.
If you want to build a business anywhere, and you want to make it look like a house, you're entitled to do that. There's nothing in Rhode Island building code or our building code that says that your business has to look like a business. So making it look like a house is, I don't know, adding to the problem. I mean, he's done the work. Okay, now we're asking him to redesign the house. And as far as whether or not the square footage is equal, it is equal. The whole bottom floor of the house is equal to the first floor of the house. So it's 50-50. He's gonna park your van and all is gonna go in that garage, and you're gonna put material in there. The whole bottom of that house is his business, and that's equal to the top floor, to the main floor. So it's not as if you're gonna have a 10-to-1 ratio. You got 50-50 here. That's not, I understand the point everybody's trying to make, but the reality is, he's done that. It's 50%. And if he wants to build his business to look like a house, he's entitled to. There are plenty of houses that have been turned into businesses, and there have been plenty of businesses that have been built looking like a house. Can't deny him that right. He can have his business look however he wants it to look.
I can
think
solve
you're
this,
missing
I can
the
solve
point.
this, I can solve this. I'm gonna solve it, okay?
We'll let you solve.
Mike's gonna put up a sign that says it's a business. And he's gonna build a berm, okay? All right, because this is, what we're allowing is a commercial entity in a general business mixed use. And what Jeff just said, wrong, but he's correct, is it's a business that happens to look like a house. And with the sign, it's a clear statement that this is a business, and with a berm that protects the ugliness of this business from Route 6. Mike, it was a joke.
I know.
Okay? We're gonna build a berm, we're gonna be the first entity in town that's gonna change the way Route 6, instead of everything down at the Helen's End, and what should have happened at the two solar farms that beat us to the punch. So if everybody will agree with what I just said, I think we can move forward. I do have one stipulation I would like. I want the building inspector to relook at these plans, and I do want a well and an entrance from the office, a stairwell, Michael, and an office, out of one of the windows, I don't care what, all right?
I'm
So,
sorry, Ron, I'm so sorry, I just missed, you would also like a well?
yeah, a stairwell, so
Oh,
one of the
stairwell.
windows would become
A second
a
egress.
second egress, okay?
Out of the office?
Yeah, out of the office, and you're gonna have to do it with a stairwell coming up to the ground level. If the building's, if he
it's
passes
compliant,
this,
if it's
no, well, if
compliant.
he passes this, I'm wrong, so, but I would like him to relook at this new, because I asked you, has he seen this, and you said similar, I'd like him to
Similar.
look at this, okay?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Excuse me, John? If I may, John Esposito from zoning. You're kicking a lot of things around, they're all valid. What I'm concerned about is the wording of how this is gonna come to the zoning board. Mr. Carpenter, yeah, you're talking about something that was brought up in 88, was it? 2010, you're talking all these things, you're very vacillating back and forth And you're not gonna come to the zoning
Mr.
board
Esposito,
with a specific.
oh, you
Yes, ma'am.
can speak as a resident of the town of Foster, but not on behalf of the zoning board.
And
Because this is coming to you next. So if you have concerns or comments as a resident, that's okay. But as a zoning board member, not okay.
could I have the attorney restate the legality of what Michael is asking?
You want,
I want the lawyer, because she's the lawyer,
Can I make, can
okay?
if you want to finish, Sergio.
let me just, I'm going through this ordinance, trying to find a way to make this work, because I do agree that it's a valiant effort, and it's a good, I mean, we're trying to get to where we need to be. We have to find a way to do something with this property. But I don't think this quite hits the mark yet. I agree that the structure can certainly look like a residence. It can have the roof lines of a residence. It can look like a residence from the outside. I agree with
Jeff.
with the idea that no, Peter. I agree with the idea that let me just go to the zoning ordinance, however. So I'm looking in the ordinance, and I'm looking at the definitions, right? So accessory use is a use of land or building or portion thereof customarily incidental and subordinate to the principal use of the land or building. This is not subordinate to the principal use. The residence is the primary use here. It's clear. The plans even say Paolucci residence / office. It doesn't say office building with accessory residence. The elevation says Davidson Pike new home. It doesn't say office building. We have another definition for home occupation, which is actually the opposite. Any activity customarily carried out for gain by a resident conducted as an accessory use in the residence dwelling. That's what this is. This is a home occupation, a building designed for home occupation. I actually disagree with Jeff. I do not think the square footage of the garage qualifies as part of either the residence or the office. Garage itself is an accessory use to both of those. The office square footage is, or excuse me, the commercial square footage is the office itself, and the residential square footage is the residence itself. So I think the office is not the primary use here. I think the residence is. That said, I don't think this is dead in the water. I think these plans, in my opinion, don't work. But I sort of agree with what Helen was suggesting, and that is, I think really what we're all suggesting here is we just reconfigure this. I think if this was just reconfigured.
You know, the expense the boards and committees has put me through as a private individual here is starting to reach levels that, you know, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I can't keep digging in my pocket.
I'm sympathetic to that, but that's not our job. Our job is to read this ordinance and to make a decision.
I'm doing
Whether
what,
we agree with it or not.
I'm doing what was asked,
I understand.
okay?
And it's
It
great.
is a business on the lower level. May I repeat myself,
It's
sake
an
of being
office in a
redundant.
basement.
It
It's an
is
office
a-
in a basement
It
under a
is
residence.
a lower level. Lower level
This-
is the business, upper level is the residence.
Lower level
That's
is a
the
home
way it
office.
is.
Upper level is a house.
You want me to put the house on the lower level and put the business on the upstairs?
Maybe
Is
the
that what you
business in
want?
the front, the residence in the back, I don't know, but my suggestion is if you reconfigure this to be, it can look like a house, I agree with Jeff there, it can look like a house, but it needs to be reconfigured so that the primary use, meaning walking the front door, you're walking into the business. You're not walking in the front door to a residence, you're walking in the front door to a business. Here, you're walking in the front door on the ground level to a residence, and you have to go around to the basement level to walk through a garage to get into the office. That's not.
Here's your front
primary
door
use.
right here. That's your front door to the business.
That's a door to the
Okay?
garage. which
That's
is
your
not part
front
of the
door,
business, it's
the
accessory use.
garage is a part of the business. It is I have to park my van somewhere. I have to keep my tools somewhere. I have to keep materials somewhere. I am a master electrician for 35 years.
This-
Sir.
This building has
Okay?
to be used not just for you. If you sell this building, it has to be an office building. You have to sell this office
I'll
building.
sell it as an office building when I'm 80 years old,
It's not an
90
office building.
maybe.
All right, I don't think we're getting anywhere with this, I think there's a little bit of Mr. Paolucci maybe needs to understand what we're saying. I don't think he's,
I do understand what you're saying.
the thing is, the special use permit that the zoning board is gonna be asked to grant is for office residence, the special use permit. So in order to do this, you need a special use permit in the zone.
I understand that.
Because it is,
It's for an accessory use.
it's
It's not for an office, but it's for an accessory use residence,
For
which
a
is
residence.
not home office, yes.
but the special use permit's for an office residence. slash residence.
Well, it should say accessory.
It does, yeah.
That's what it should
Accessory
say.
use is the
Right,
residence.
the accessory use is the residence.
Is the residence.
And you're saying an office, you're not saying, business. And an office is, if the whole garage was an office, then it would be like this. It would be all office, you wouldn't be parking vehicles in an office. So the language is maybe not right
Well,
there.
garage technically is an accessory use.
The garage can be part of the office slash business. It can be. There are condos, business garages with offices. It's the same principle.
That's what I presented.
Joe.
Mike.
Please.
Okay.
Okay. Sergio was right about one thing. When you buy a house, I don't say that about lawyers too often.
The attorney was correct. Go ahead.
When you buy a house and you look at the square footage, the square footage refers to only the living space, it never refers to the basement. When you have a business, garage space is always counted. Always. So this fits the building, the business side of it, more than it fits the living side of it.
That's the whole.
All right, so how are we gonna proceed? I mean, there's so many other things that we have to talk about besides just this one thing. I mean, there's, location, there's property lines,
So why don't you poll the board, Joe?
and I.
Do you want to address the abutters letter as well?
Yeah. I don't,
The butters.
now, if the two halves of it are equal, is that acceptable or is not?
That's not an accessory use.
So it's not acceptable.
Well, that's my legal opinion. It's-
No, I'm
that's
just
not
saying, 'cause
accessory use.
I'm
Right.
thinking the same thing, and I'm reading the ordinance, I mean, it's nothing against Mr. Paolucci, but because it's GBM, the accessory use is the residence.
The accessory use needs to be a subordinate use. And in all honesty, we're being creative with the residents being an accessory use and trying to accommodate Mr. Paolucci, but it needs to be a subordinate use to, I think, legal under our ordinance, in my opinion.
So what do you think our best course of action at this point is to continue this so we can maybe have a conference between some of us with Mr. Paolucci to try to come to some kind of an understanding of what we need? Or should we continue with the plan as it is, or try to, obviously the architect's not here.
And so we don't want to be in a position of being the architectural
No,
consultant.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's why I hired an architect. You're
And
right.
so, I think if you poll the board, and, I don't think we need to take a vote, because the vote, if we vote
It's not-
against the special use permit, then that is not helpful. And so if we take a vote, if there's a majority of the board who feel like the plan needs to be reworked to make it clear that the residence is the accessory use to the main business, commercial use, then Mr. Palucci is able to confer with his architect again and to rework the plan. My summary of that.
Joe, you have somebody in the audience. Remember, there are 4 of you here. All right.
Just a question. Did anybody ever go back and research and see why this piece of property isn't of a lot of record?
Because
It should have been.
it isn't because it wasn't created before 1970. 67.
Right, it's not a substandard lot of record for AR because it was created after
Yeah.
1967. When it was created, it was a substandard lot for commercial purposes.
So the answer actually is yes.
Okay.
That
Yeah, it was
was, that was research.
Thank you.
Okay.
Joe?
Mike?
It's not, it wasn't a lot of record because of the 1970 thing. But it was created in 2010. The planning board, I believe, made suggestions on what could be done on Route 6, and they stamped that lot AR.
We've
Right, and now we've given that back to.
Wait a minute,
We've given
wait a
that
minute.
back.
We've already
As
been through all of that.
specific in detail as the planning board is, when they stamped that AR, so let's make this lot AR, because it'll conform better on Route 6. Knowing very well that they made that piece of property useless.
We've already.
It's not a question, it's just,
We've
it
already-
doesn't make any
After
sense.
We've
2010,
already
most
gone
of us
through
weren't on
this.
the board at the
Mr.
time.
Pellucci, has also addressed this, of what happened at the time. The solution was to create the general business mixed use designation on that lot. And so that was the solution to making this lot usable.
The GBM is what he had, basically. So GBM's grandfather's him in with a 2-acre lot, being that it was highway commercial, so he can actually build on a lot that's less than 4.59 acres, because when it was highway commercial, it was allowed for business. As a general business mixed use, it doesn't conform, but because it was grandfathered, because it was highway commercial, and it's consistent with GBM, he didn't have the ability to build a home on it when it was highway commercial, because they weren't allowed. In GBM, you can have a residence as an accessory use with a business. So that's where we are tonight. It has to be an accessory use, and that's where we're kind of, on that line.
Can I make a motion?
We're gonna just pull the board and see
All right.
if everybody, on the same page here, that, what Helen suggested, that, the concept's there, but that, it has to be reworked, so to show that the primary use is the business and the accessory use is the residence. So if everybody agrees with that, if you agree with that statement, then you say aye. If not, then you be opposed. So I'll start at the end, I guess.
Motion?
I'm gonna abstain. Mike, don't tell me what I should do.
You want us to poll?
Right, a poll, and I'm
Okay,
not,
so
I'm a
Jeff said
non-vote.
aye.
I'm a non-vote.
Ron's abstaining, and aye. Mike's in agreement, aye. Sergio? What's the poll? That we want to make sure that this is reworked to show that it's the primary use is the business and not in the residence and the accessory use.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's 5 in favor, 1 abstention.
It's 4 in favor, 1 abstention, and 1 no.
Who said no? You said aye.
Did you say yes?
Yes, he said yes.
No, the way you worded it, I did say that.
We
Wait,
redo-
no, wait a minute
We
here.
never redo.
That's
That's all right, so Jeff, you said no.
Tell me what the vote means.
That we want the plans to reflect that the primary use is the business and the accessory use is the residence. So we want
And the
Mr.
plans will be
Taylor
reworked, but he's
to- For
gonna have
Mr.
this
Taylor to
plan
go
to
back
send
and
back.
have his architect rework the plan to show that.
I think the plan's sufficient.
So he's over.
Revote that.
No.
All right, so he was just misunderstood. Okay, so it's 4-1 to 1. All right, so at this point, we'll do that. So I think the board's in agreement that, it is a good concept, but because of our ordinance, we need to show
Joe,
the
excuse me.
business the residence as an accessory use. It's very important, because that's what GBM is for business, so, I know, but,
That's what it is.
I understand, but we need.
There's no square footage determining office from an accessory use.
But see,
where is it in
if
the
business
zoning
is
book? That's telling
the
me.
same size, it doesn't make it.
So what if it's the same size or larger? There's no zoning that requires an office to be X amount of square feet, or a residence to be X amount of square feet, is there? Is there?
The zoning ordinance talks about accessory uses being subordinate, and our zoning ordinance doesn't.
And subordinate meaning what? How many square feet?
Subordinate means
Square feet.
secondary to. Our zoning ordinance also doesn't envision a residence being an accessory use, but the board here is trying its best to accommodate you. So subordinate means secondary to,
Then tell me what to do
which
with my
must mean
plans.
lesser than.
What do I do with my plans? Someone tell me, please.
You need to take it back to your architect.
And
you
tell him
need-
what?
The board can give you guidance,
Well,
but
you're
we're not
reading-
here to do your
you
job
need
for
to
you.
tell-
No, you are, you're doing my job for me. You're redesigning a design from an architect, a licensed architect who's been in the trade for years.
Nobody's saying that the plan
Okay.
is not sufficient. What the board is saying is that they don't feel that this is actually an accessory use. If you prefer that the board take a poll and send
I'm asked to take a
a recommendation or a vote, and send a recommendation to the zoning board that is not in your favor, I think the board can do that too, but that does not stand to help you. The board is trying to assist you tonight so that they can send an approval to the zoning board so that it's a good decision. for
Okay,
the
then
zoning
since
board.
you're making these decisions, which section do you want me to put up the office in? You got two levels. You got a lower level and an upper level.
You need to
Which-
tell your architect that you need an office building with an accessory use, that it needs to be a subordinate use.
There you go.
And then bring the plans back.
Can I ask a question? What's gonna make it a subordinate use?
That's up to you.
We should,
That's up
no,
to
we
the
should at
board.
least
No,
be
you
able
should
to
tell
tell
me
this
this.
guy,
You're
is it gonna be in
Oh,
square
man,
footage or
this is
not?
unbelievable.
That is a subjective decision that's up to the
That's
board.
it.
But we're not here
Getting a
to,
lawyer. I really thought we could work it out between residents and town, but I see we have an impasse here, and it's really driving me crazy, because this is just, if you're redesigning my building, then you should tell me how to redesign it.
Mr. We are trying to adhere to our.
I understand.
We have to
I know. I
follow
have
these
the
rules,
zoning
we don't
book.
have a choice. We're not doing this because we're against it, I'd like
I know,
to say,
I
yeah,
understand.
but we gotta follow the rules, there's rules, and these are the rules that we have to follow, and if we don't
I don't,
follow
tell me
them.
which part needs to be changed
we
to
don't
office.
follow, somebody's gonna
In
follow
business?
it.
Is this business? Why can't the lower level be business? And the upper level, why does it have to be proportionate? Tell me, I can't find it in here. It doesn't say it has to be proportionate. You know, you could be, next spring, you could be getting additional tax money to the coffers in the town of Forster. But I don't know. We got another issue with that, being taxed as a buildable lot.
It is a buildable lot.
Now it is, but it wasn't for the past 12 years. This is,
I don't think that's the issue that's here.
no, it's not, but it's a part of the issue.
I think we have a misunderstanding here, Mr. Taylor.
I think so.
I think, that we're not trying to steer you away, we just, we have to make sure that this is consistent with what is allowed. The special use permit is for an accessory use, the accessory use is the residence, so it has to be subordinate to the office. business.
So 97 Danielson Pike, that's the example I should go by?
What's that?
What's 97 Danielson?
It used to be Dr. Spencer's office, doctor's office, now people live in it.
It's not a part of the GBN.
So what is it then? Isn't the doctor's office GBN?
It's AR now, Mike.
It's not.
The doctor's office is now AR? No, I'm trying to get an example. I'm trying to get an example.
About your property. And Mr. Pelleggi, I understand that you're upset. I understand that this is, and I think people have said, we would really like to be able to make it workable for you. I hope that you listen to us. Too.
I have.
And that you
Believe me,
can.
I'm a good listener.
That if this wasn't the result you were hoping for, but I think if you take it
No.
back to your architect and say that the planning board, the majority of the planning board, when polled, felt that the primary use was residential and the accessory use was the office, that your architect will be able to help you rework your plan. And so that it will, and I just don't think anything more can be said about it. I think everybody.
So what is the proportionate from residential to business? What is the proportion? What is it?
Your architect will be, Mike,
I mean, I want to know, wait, I should stick to the town of Forest zoning book.
Mike,
What is the proportion?
can we move on then? If Mike's not gonna listen, can we move
Well,
on?
I've been listening.
No, so I would like to tell you this. Your architect will be able to read the ordinances, okay, and properly help you design that building, okay? I can't, Mike, remember, I didn't vote, I'm trying to help you.
I understand
okay?
that.
So we need to move on.
That's why I keep asking.
Okay.
All right, I want an answer though.
But-
What is it supposed to look like? What is the proportion? Forget my architect, tell me. You're talking to me.
I think we have
What
an
is the
obligation
proportion?
to tell him why we're saying no. Okay? You want to say it has to be subordinate, does that mean square footage, or does it not mean square footage? If he goes to an architect and spends more money, and he only gets 10 extra square feet, is that even close to being enough?
I'd like to
Hang on.
move to adjourn. To adjourn. A motion to adjourn is in order at any time.
Right.
It's not in a second, and it needs an up or down vote, and I'm making this motion
Okay.
because we are not making any progress. We've been around about this as many times as we can, and I move to adjourn. The motion to adjourn cannot be debated, it needs to be voted.
Okay, all in favor?
Was there a second?
Does not need a second, does not require a second.
Did you guys vote?
I didn't vote yet.
Okay, all in favor?
Of adjourning?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
I hate wasting time, but if you think there's,
Aye. Okay, meeting adjourned. 8:20.
are we gonna have a second meeting this month? Because we could use,
Meeting's adjourned. Meeting's adjourned.
well, that doesn't, the chair and the planner can.
We have a meeting scheduled for the 20th.
I think we should have one.
Our second meeting. All right.
All I can do is-